Welcome to the Damn Good Average Bowler Educational Series, Segment 6. We are here for lane play. I'm your host, Dustin Capps, and with us as always is our pillar of knowledge, local pro, and very own CEO, Coach Michael Price. What's going on, Coach?
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Okay, we're here still in the DGAB studio, but we have a training aid with us today for lane play. So, Coach, why don't we start with oil patterns? I know that's very vague. So what are the types of oil patterns and why is that relevant to everyone from a regular house bowler schmuck like myself to the bigwigs like yourself?
Recreational,
Okay.
challenge, and sport.
All right.
So recreational, most leagues in today's game use a variant of a recreational oil pattern.
To call it a house pattern?
Yes.
And so is this an example of such house pattern?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now what exactly are we looking at here?
So this is a graph of how the oil is laid out on each lane as the oiling machine goes down. You'll notice the oiling machine goes all the way down and it comes all the way back. There's 3 shades right here. The first shade, this is the first layer of oil that goes down, which in here is also the first layer. So as that oil machine's going all the way down, and when it starts to come back, you'll actually hear it click or make some kind of noise, and it lays down the what they call the reverse oil, which these two put together right here. This is combined forward and reverse.
Yep.
This right here is the forward, and this right here is a light volume of reverse. It's also called taper.
Okay. And is that crucial for the bowler to know? Because we have, again, different colors, different things like that. So where might a bowler want to start? Is you starting with your feet where we line up on the lanes?
So you're going to line up 9 times out of 10. Right-hander is going to line up on the middle dot.
Okay.
Their arm's going to be hanging over about the second arrow.
Okay.
And a lot of bowlers, more times than not, use that as their target, which is the second arrow.
Okay. Yep.
So what you notice is, though, is these high-performance bowling balls,
Yes.
they're so porous. They're so porous, and they absorb oil at such an exponential rate that as more people play, this is going to break down over time, which is going to end up forcing people that have a higher rev rate to move their feet left and get in more on the oil.
So when this oil, what I heard from that as a house schmuck, I deemed myself, when this oil starts to go away, that's going to make my ball start to do something different. Not doing the same thing, no consistency. So how do you know when how can you identify the time to move and then how to make the proper move on the lane?
Depends on what kind of leaves you're leaving.
Ooh, I like that.
The leave is imperative to adjusting and getting ahead of what is known as transition.
Okay.
Perfect example. This previous Monday night, game 1, I shot 300, number 27. Game 2, I shot 195 because transition came into play. And what that means is how the ball entered the pocket.
Okay.
First 12 shots, not a problem. The next 12 shots, I started getting a little bit of, it's called getting tapped.
Okay.
Started getting tapped. That means the angle of the ball going into the pocket was not the same, thus leaving me a lot of...
It means it's done, basically. You're tapped. You finished that line that you were trying to use. Okay.
And so usually a 10 pins left for a right-hander, 7 pin for lefty. It comes down to entry angles at that point. And you can tell, basically, if it's a strike, everything's in sync. The pins do what they need to do job-wise, and the 6 ends up hitting the 10.
Yeah.
Another example of 10 pin leaves, wrap 10. What happens here? The 6 pin wraps around the 10. And it sounds good. You can actually tell by sounds. Sounds will tell you, was it weak? Was it just like a great shot? Because there's a lot of times that I've come back off the approach and they're like, hey, you rolled a good ball. That was a good ball.
Yep.
And there's other times, well, Michael, that 10 pin just won't go for you. No, I threw that one bad. And I know you've heard me in the certain times that we've gotten on the lanes together. I'm like, that wasn't a good shot. Yeah. And some people look and go, well, you hit the pocket. Again, it comes down to entry angle.
And it's interesting, though, that you said this, because as much as we've talked about stuff and I've been around for the last year, this one, I don't know, for the first time triggered in my mind. It was interesting that you said that we know that the lane is changing, but what you're looking for is the reaction of the pins, not the lane. So you're adjusting off of the reaction to the pins. find that very interesting. And also, I had no idea, but you've already explained a bunch of them to us, that there are different types of 10-pin leaves.
Yes.
Which is crazy to me as a new bowler, but now it's, common. So would you run us through those different types of 10-pin leaves one more time?
So we got a ring and 10, which means the ball hits the pocket. The 6-pin just wraps around the 10. For a lefty, the 4 is going to wrap around the 7. Also, weak 10. You hit the pocket. Now, here's another element added on to that, Dustin, is a weak 10. What's going to happen is the ball is going to hit, and sometimes instead of finishing like it should, the ball is going to hit and deflect.
We've all seen that.
And when it deflects, it finishes off course, and that 6-pin kind of just goes, it just kind of falls over.
Now, transitioning on the lanes and moving yourself on the lane, right? That can be difficult for newer bowlers that are learning the more advanced type stuff. So I think it's critical when I try to do those, I have to make sure, we've talked about last segment, a lot of times consistency, right? Consistency is the maker or breaker of a lot of things. So I'm kind of in my head while you're talking about this. It's like, so I'd have to reiterate to myself on the lane, make sure you're doing everything consistent in order to be able to make calls. Does that sound accurate? Okay.
So a couple basic calls to look at, okay? For instance, you get up there, you're rolling your ball, you leave a weak 10. What do I need to do? You need to create more entry angle. You could do a couple of things. You can move your feet more to the right, and you can play a little bit straighter. And what happens is when you play it straighter, notice you're right in here, that's where that oil's at, right? I move a little bit to the right, what happens? There's not as much oil. Therefore, when there's not as much oil, your high-performance ball gets into its roll quicker, it encounters friction quicker, it's going to turn quicker. So therefore, you're creating a more profound entry angle, which is hopefully going to, instead of weak 10, it's just going to keep on course, and the pins are just all going to explode.
I like that. And on that note, that's what we're here to do, is make your overall bowler profile more profound. I like that. So having said that, we hope that we have helped you become more profound on the lanes with proper lane adjustment. Coach, appreciate it. Good to see you always. And we will catch you next time.